Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. And you can catch this Week 6 matchup on October 12th at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time on your local Fox affiliates. And this NFC showdown between the 2-3 Bears and the 2-3 Falcons is going to be a game to watch. It's definitely a game that I'm excited to watch, even though both of these teams are currently below 500. One of them will be at 500 by the end of it and still right in the thick of things. And of course, the other team, whoever loses this game, is going to have an uphill battle to climb in their division, as the loser will be sitting at 2-4. But as it is right now, as it stands, how did we get here? Well, in Week 1, the Bears lost a costly game to the Buffalo Bills in overtime in Chicago by a field goal. They really wish they could get that one back, I'm sure. They went then on the road to San Francisco and they beat the Niners in the Niners' first home game in the regular season in their new stadium in Levi Stadium. So they have the distinction of winning the first regular season home game in Levi Stadium, game period in Levi Stadium in the regular season. They won that one by 8 points. Then they went to New York and they won. Then they came home and they lost to Green Bay. They lost pretty bad. And then they went to Carolina and they lost that game by a touchdown. And I'll tell you, it's a tough stretch for the Bears. 3 out of their last 4 games were on the road, and when you include this game in Atlanta, that makes 4 out of 5 road games here during this stretch. And if you go back to the Week 1, it's 4 out of 6 to start the season. So that's kind of a rough schedule that the Bears got, even though they didn't even make the playoffs last year. Now we look at the Falcons. They started off with a win in overtime over the Saints in Atlanta. They won by a field goal, so it was the opposite of the Bears. And then they went to Cincinnati and they lost to the Bengals. The Bengals are unbeatable in Cincinnati over the last year in some change. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers then came to Atlanta on that Thursday night game, and the Falcons destroyed them. But ever since that Thursday night game where the Falcons made history when Devin Hester broke Deion Sanders' record there in prime time, in front of prime time, as prime time predicted, ever since that game, the Falcons haven't won a game. As they went to Minnesota and they got beat up, and then they went to New York and they got beat up, and they've been having issues on that offensive line. They had a tight end playing tackle during that Minnesota game, so they got some issues to address. And the Falcons, man, on the road, they struggled. 3 out of their last 4 games were on the road, and they lost every single road game this year. But they have won both of their home games, and this game here in Week 6, it's going to be played, you guessed it, in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome as Chicago comes to town. Let's look inside the numbers. So the Bears, they're 14th in the NFL when it comes to passing yards per game. The Falcons, they're number 2. So the Falcons got a potent passing attack. Matt Ryan has been having quite the year so far, as he's already thrown for over 300 yards last week in the loss. He threw for over 400 yards in Week 1. And every other week he had over 200, almost reached 300 a couple other times, but I actually expect him to reach 300 yards in this game. But let's look at the passing defense. The Bears are 17th when it comes to passing yards allowed, and the Falcons are 24th. So both of these teams struggle to stop the pass. They let up a lot of passing yards, and the Bears are more middle of the road when it comes to passing yards, whereas the Falcons, they got a very potent attack through the air for sure. These teams are actually very similar. The difference is kind of how well Matt Ryan protects the ball. And you actually look at the numbers. He's thrown 11 touchdowns versus 6 interceptions, whereas Jay Cutler is actually the same, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So they really are the same. I mean, they're almost the same dang team, for goodness sake. They have the same record. But then we look at their running games, though. This is where we have more of a difference. And the running offense of the Bears is 22nd, and the Falcons, they're 17th. And when it comes to running defense, the Bears are 16th, and the Falcons are 28th. And so you got to give the edge to the Bears. And the thing is here, although they're 22nd when it comes to the run, part of the reason is because Matt Forte is actually getting a lot of yards through the air. He's only run the ball 82 times. They've thrown the ball 192 times. But he's caught 36 passes for 299 yards to go along with his 319 yards rushing, which actually gives him 618 total yards. So when he actually has 2 touchdowns, one touchdown receiving, but no touchdowns on the ground, and that's actually an issue and a problem, is they only have 1 touchdown on the ground, and that was Jay Cutler. So they need to get the ball into the end zone on the ground, them Bears. And whereas the Falcons, on the other hand, Steven Jackson, he used to be the same way, but he isn't really putting up them yards, in the air. He only has 57 yards receiving to go with his 238 rushing yards. Antoine Smith, though, he has 156 yards receiving off of just 6 receptions for a ridiculous 26-yard average. He scored 2 touchdowns off of receptions, but he's only got 121 rushing yards, and they don't really run the ball a lot. They pass it so much. 201 passing attempts versus 123 running plays for the Falcons. So both of these teams, they like to pass the ball. They even like to pass the ball to their running backs. So the Falcons have actually, though, a total of 6 touchdowns on the ground. Jackson has a pair, Smith has a pair, and even Rodgers has a touchdown, and Hester has run for a touchdown as well. So it's even difficult to say that the Bears have the advantage when it comes to the run, but I still do give them the advantage because of their run defense. Whereas the Falcons, their defense has just been really, mediocre would be being kind. So, whereas the Bears, their defense has actually been pretty good. Even though I kind of think they have a better passing defense, they do cause turnovers. That's the thing, is they are ball hawks there in that Bears secondary. But let's look at points scored, though, and this is really where these teams separate themselves even further. The Bears are 16th when it comes to points scored, and the Falcons are 3rd. So big difference there. The Falcons put up points. They put up points at will, and the Bears struggle to get points on the board, even though they can put them up quick. When they're hitting, they're hitting, but when they're not, and they cannot get it in on the ground. And then when it comes to points against, the Bears are 23rd and the Falcons are 29th. So the Falcons, they let up a lot of points. That's where it's almost tough to get the Falcons the edge in this with how many points they allow, but they put up so many points that it almost don't matter how many you allow, because if you just keep scoring, don't matter if the other team scores as long as you score more. So that's where the edge goes to Atlanta when it comes to scoring. And if we look at Atlanta, in their wins, they put up 37 and then 56 points. In their losses, they put up 10 points against Cincinnati. Understandable. Cincinnati's got a ridiculous defense, and it was in Cincinnati. But then against the Vikings and the Giants, they put up 28 and then 20. So they put up points even when they lose. And when they are on, they said 37 against New Orleans, 56 against Tampa. And I know it's Tampa, but still, 56 is nothing to shake a stick at. Whereas the Bears, the most points they put up was when they put up 28 when they beat the Niners, which was impressive against the Niners in San Fran. And then they put up 27 against the Jets, also impressive. But then in their other 3 losses, though, they put up 20 against the Bills, which actually is all right. The Bills are pretty good defense. 17 against the Packers, though, was really, they got shut down by Green Bay. Of course, Green Bay is very familiar. And then Carolina, they put up 24, so, they can score. It's not like they can't, but not like the Falcons can. And I just think that the Falcons in this game, it's going to be fun to watch. It'll be an interesting game. Both these teams should be airing it out. I expect big games out of Matt Forte. I think he's going to tear it up. I think Matt Ryan's going to tear it up. That's why I got both of them on my fantasy fortune picks. I also got Alshon Jeffrey. I think he's going to have a big game. I think it's going to be lots of fantasy points in this game, lots of yards, lots of touchdowns. It's going to be exciting. If you like one of those games, if you like a shootout, we got two gunslingers. Jay Cutler, he loves to air it out. Matt Ryan loves to air it out. Both teams are very evenly matched. It's going to be interesting. Also, you got the other dynamic of Devin Hester against his former team. And don't be surprised to see Devin Hester score a touchdown in this game one way or another, whether he returns a kick, a punt, or maybe he runs an end around for a touchdown, or even catches a pass for a touchdown, or maybe he scores more than one way. Maybe he scores all three ways, or four. It's getting a little out of hand, right? But, hey man, a player like that is going to come to play, and this is going to have a lot of eyes on this game. It's going to be a late game. It's going to be a game of the week. Everybody going to be watching on Fox. You're going to be watching. I know I'm going to be watching. And it's going to be a fun game, like I said, to watch. And I think, when it comes down to it, Cutler's going to make the mistake. Where Matt Ryan may make a mistake too, but I still think in the end, in Atlanta, Falcons pull it out. And like I said, it should be a shootout. The Falcons, I think it's going to be close. I think the Bears keep it close, but I won't be surprised. The Falcons, once they get going, you've seen what they did to Tampa. Don't be shocked if that ends up happening in this game. But more likely, I think it'll stay close. I hope it does. I hope it comes down to the end, to the final moments, to the 2-minute warning. And either Matt Ryan's going for a game-winning drive or Cutler's going for a game-winning drive. And either way, like if it's Ryan, I think he'll end up succeeding with the game-winning drive if he's put in that position. I think Cutler will fall short if he ends up in that position. He has many times before. No reason to think he wouldn't do it this time. Although he has lots of talent, Cutler's problem is just that too much confidence, really. He always tries to squeeze the ball in places they don't belong instead of just, checking down. Sometimes you settle for a lesser play or throw it out of bounds. Sometimes you gotta take a sack. Sometimes you gotta punt the ball. You don't always fucking force it. That's why they lose. That's why, he is who he is. Once he can start freaking learning to protect it, then, things could be different. And he is having a decent season, don't get me wrong, but we'll see how things move forward here in 2014. It's definitely going to be interesting. But either way, I think Falcons win this game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Share your opinions and your thoughts with myself and everyone here at 21st Sports. Redbeard wants to know too. And so does the entire world. The eyes of the entire world might not be on this video or this page, but if you leave a comment, chances are anybody could see it. And then you never know what goes on from there. Either way, let me know if you enjoyed the show. Let us know. Hit that like button. That's how we know. Otherwise, how would we know? And if you want to leave a dislike, go ahead. Let us know that way too. You can leave a comment. Just try to be constructive with the criticism if possible. And if you're leaving a positive comment, I'm going to give you a thumbs up and a thank you in advance, because those are appreciated so much. We really, really greatly appreciate any and all comments, especially the positive ones. And we appreciate all the subscribers. We appreciate everyone listening, especially those of you listening right now here all the way through to the end of the show. You are awesome. I love ya. So thank you very much. I really greatly appreciate it. I can't say that enough. And make sure to subscribe if you do enjoy this content, as we bring you recaps and upon further reviews for each and every single game, each and every single week. We try to get them up as early as possible. Sometimes they're a little late. If they are late, life happens. It's having some technical difficulties this week, but we fixed them and we got things back on track. So I hope you're having a great day and a great weekend and enjoy all the sports.